So recently I had helped put together a video for my chief, and I will leave the video link in the description below. And yeah, I helped put together a video for him. I just did the visuals and all that. And in his video, he was talking about a lot of things like paper genocide and stuff like that. But the one thing that caught my interest was how he mentioned that Black is a experience and a culture. And I thought about it, and I just wanted to add my little spin onto that. Not disagreeing with what he said or anything, but I do want to add my little flair into that discussion. To me, do I think Black is a culture and a experience? I think Black is not the culture. I think the word itself, though, is a experience. Now, let me explain, because this might come off confusing to some, but just bear with me. This is a new thought that just came across my noggin watching this video. Um, so I'll start off with myself. Like, growing up, I am mixed, and people always saw me as mixed. Although I don't know where it's like everywhere else, but where I'm from, other Black kids used to pick on mixed kids and be like, "Oh yeah, I want to be anything else but Black." So just for the sake of it all, like a lot of us was just like, "No, we prefer to be called Black. There's nothing wrong with being called Black. Like, we're Black." And I'm not gonna lie, saying Black is easier than saying everything else that you are, but it does erase your heritage. It does do that, because say like I keep going on saying that I'm just Black, and then I have kids and I tell them that they're Black, and their kids, it keeps going down the line. It gets lost. You forget everything else that is a part of you. And that becomes a problem, because nowadays you do have people that police the whole who is Black enough to be Black. And when you are told your whole life that you are Black, and now all of a sudden you're not Black enough, it's just like, it's like, what? Like, so that's what it was like for me growing up. But I always knew that there was more to it than just Black, and I always found it odd that other ethnic groups was able, and still is able, to represent their flag, their culture, their food, their yada yada yada. But with Blacks, it's, although we do have hip hop, we do have our foods, we do have our arts. There's more to it. Like, you know what I mean? There's more to it. So I feel like that, the being labeled Black in itself, is a experience, because it's a confusing experience, especially when there's a lot of other Blacks who aren't like mixed, they're just considered Black. They don't know where their people have come from either, and a lot of them been told that they are Indigenous American and stuff like that. So you have that going on. You have people who feel like they came from African slaves but don't know from where, and then you have some people who feel like they're Moorish, coming from like the Middle East or like North Africa. And it's so funny, like, out of African and Indigenous, I never believed that Black Americans had like, they were like Moorish, come from Moorish descent. I never used to believe that up until when my dad had told me, when he came back from his doctor's appointment and they did like some blood test on him, his doctor was just like, "I didn't know that you was Egyptian." And he was just like, "Well, me neither." And they found that in his blood, something that he's immune to, that a lot of Egyptians are immune to. This is off topic, but I'm going somewhere with this. And even though I take DNA testing with a grain of salt, when I got back my DNA, that did show up in my percentage. Not Egyptian, but like Arabic, Turkish, Iran, like all the like places surrounding like Egypt was in my DNA, like little percentages that made up like about 12%. So I do believe now that there were Moorish people who were out here, especially doing my um, genealogy and finding out that there was Moorish people that just settled in the places where my family on my dad's side is from. And this is what makes the Black experience so confusing, because you have all these things that was put into history that no one really knows about, because they only teach you one thing that happened in history, which was like the African slavery. But there's way more to the story, and history is not so concrete as we think that it is. All right, off of my tangent, but back to the main topic. So Black in itself is an experience, and nowadays when you have people who are trying to figure out who they are and where they came from, it's kind of hard to do when your family was just being told Negro, 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 Black, 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 Black. And like I said, it's also confusing when you are being told that you are not Black enough. And here's another thing. It can also be confusing when you have other groups coming in who look Black American, but it's not. And they can't stand Black Americans, but best believe they will reap the benefits off of the Black experience just from being out here. So that makes the Black culture more confusing. It's just an identity thing that is the experience. If you could get anything from this video, to me, just that word Black and being called Black is an experience itself. But to say that it's a culture, maybe my chief has some points there, but I feel like that culture, even nowadays when I'm stepping outside of being called Black and considering myself mixed with indigenous and all that stuff, the culture still remains. Like, I still feel the same. I'm just separating myself from that word Black. But everything in itself, like the food, the music, the arts, how we think, how we move, that's still, like, it's still there. So just an example to clarify everything that I'm saying. One of my aunts had told me before, when our Italian ancestors first came out here, they had a split. So the more white looking Italians went their own way, and the more ethnic looking Italians went their own way. Because if any of you guys know about the Italian history, when they first came out here, they was getting discriminated against, and they were considered like the Negroes of the whites, and some of them even got hung. So when the Lord changed and they were now switched to be considered white, just separated from that word Negro, they had a complete different experience. So that's what I mean by Black itself is the experience, because it could be confusing due to our heritage being not necessarily, not all of our heritage has been stripped. I meant to throw this in there earlier. A lot of things that we still do, if you are mixed with indigenous heritage, a lot of things that we do is low-key American Indian culture, but we just don't know too much about it because of the fact that our name's been switched to now Negro and Black. I will explain that in another video, because this video will be extra long and more confusing. So to sum that all up and add in my own spin to it, it's just the word that's the experience. It's not the culture per se, but it's just the word that gives you that Black experience. When you do figure out who you are and where your family has come from, I feel like, to me, it doesn't change a thing. I think you just more, it just changes how the way you think and the way you move. And yeah, that's just my summary of the whole Black as a culture and a experience. Just the experience, not necessarily the culture, but just the experience.